Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. I'm going to be pretty honest. It's getting to a point with this mask thing, this wearing Sarah mask and a Gwen mask now. It's getting to a point where it's like, all right, now it's just getting a little ridiculous. Now it's getting a little ridiculous, and it's getting to a point where it's like, all right, cool, we could sit there and write some really implausible stuff, and then just sit there and say, oh, well, this person has a mask, and that person has a mask, and this person. It's like, what are we doing? Like Abigail confronts Sarah, well, fake Sarah, right? And then Kristen calls up and it's like, hey, I have a scoop for you. I didn't sit there and frame Brady. I wouldn't do that to, like Rachel's father. Um, you know, so she does that on the phone. And so at this point, Abby's like, okay, cool. I still don't believe that you're not Kristen. They go back and forth for a little bit. And then she's like, okay, you know what? Yeah, you're Gwen. Because only you be this desperate enough to sit there and keep only you be this desperate to sit there and keep to keep Xander. And that's my whole thing. This whole plot is her being so desperate to sit there and keep this man. She has to do any and everything to keep Xander for some odd reason. I mean, how she was there, in the flashback, you could see her whining to Abby, talking about, oh, I want to be happy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm just gonna flat out say it. And, granted, I say this, but I know that my subscribers are smart enough to realize that, but I'm just saying this from the male species, okay? We are not that important. We are not that important to sit there and be so desperate to sit there and keep us. We're not. I'm not saying we're not important. I'm just saying we're not that important to go through the length and jumping through all the hoops. Okay? So just know that. Yeah, now she confronts her and she's like, oh, yeah, no, you're Gwen. And I know you're Gwen because of this, that, and the third. And, they're arguing and it gets to a point where, fake Sarah is about to try to walk away and Abby stops her and they start tussling for a little bit. And then somebody shows up in a Gwen mask. So now I'm at this point where I'm like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was entertaining to an extent. And I know they need to sit there and do this to drag out this storyline. I mean, there's a fine line between not rushing something and letting it play out as natural course. And now we're just throwing pots and pans at this story to keep it going. I mean, come on now. Seriously? A Gwen map? Would Kristen just hook you up with another one? I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. This is. So I guess this her old pal Abe isn't there helping her out. I, okay, sure. So Chloe's not there calling her dad. Gonna be honest, I did not hear what her dad's name is. Now I saw on Instagram that when I saw her dad walk through, I remember seeing him on the paper, or not on the paper, on the Instagram post. I think it was Soap Opera Digest of all the comings and goings and stuff like that, and they showed him. Now I don't remember him saying his name, and she was like, "Daddy," and then she starts talking. It was like, "Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm." So what is his name? We're not gonna share with that with the classroom. We're not gonna. I'm sorry. We're not gonna share that with the new people in the classroom. It's exactly what I was there saying in my GH review. This is something that was just a pet peeve. Just a pet peeve. That's just really annoying me because he done this. in B&B, and they've done this at times with GH. The thing is, for me, sometimes when they do that, I know who some of these people are because I've been watching the show since high school. Um, Except for this new character that just came in there today. My point is, I've been watching the show for a while, so when they throw certain characters in there and you don't say their name, it's like, all right, cool, I know who this person is. But if I didn't know who some of these people were, it would infuriate me. And having this guy walk through the door and her just saying, "Daddy," blah 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 blah, and then the whole time when Nancy comes in and she's accusing him of cheating, and first of all, I'm not gonna lie, after a while she just got a little kind of annoying. Because she wouldn't let him get a word in. And it was one point even Chloe's like, well, we haven't heard anything because he hasn't talked yet. Um, but Chloe sticks up for him because this is what I have to go on now. Hmm. Um. So if anyone knows, because obviously this is pissing me off, if anyone knows the name of this guy, please let me know in the comment section below, so I can call him something other than Daddy or Dad, because that's just no, it's just annoying me. Anyway, Chloe sticks up for him, and so with that being said, Nancy believes him. They're all gonna go out to dinner. There's one point where he hugs her, and he just has a look on his face, you know, like he's up to something. So while I sat there and said that, Nancy was getting annoyed because she kept going, just stop, just unmute this. Um, I'm not listening to saying that she's entirely wrong, but she hasn't actually had any shred of proof yet. And I think that was the part that was just like, all right, Nancy, okay, Nancy, shut up, Nancy. But the look on his face, yeah, it's not good. That's all I'm going to sit there and say about that. So, John Diablo um, is kissing Gabby. Then Gabby slaps him. They talk for a little bit. And, he's all like, oh, well, I know you're committed and stuff like that, but you can have a little fun on the side. And Gabby's like, I'm not to say I'm not attracted to you, to kind of, I don't know, string him along. But at this point, I'm like, Gabby, that might have worked if he wasn't just so forceful, you know? But this guy is getting, you know what I'm saying? Like the fact that he just straight up kissed you like that. This isn't that the type of guy you can sit there and just kind of lure along. Maybe I need to come up with another plan. Anyway, there's one more point where he does kiss her again. And then Abby comes in there and Gabby leaves. And then Allie, oh yeah. I remember somebody saying her name was Allison. But anyway, Allie, comes at Johnny, or she thinks it's Johnny, calls her a couple of, calls him a couple of names, um, calling him a creep and a cheater and this, that, and third. And John Diablo says some mean stuff too. Well, here's the thing. Some of the stuff that he said to her, I was like, all right, you know, as far as her being judgmental and, acting like she's better than everyone else, but yet having her mom sit there and marry into a rich family, stuff like that was like, okay, all right, he's going back at her or whatever. But then it got to a point where he was sitting there talking about Charlie and Trip and stuff like that. And just like the words and the way he was sitting there saying, I was like, all right, bro, listen, everyone at this point knows that I don't like Allie. Okay? I don't like Allie. But with that being said, I was like, all right, bro, you going a little bit too far there, bro. Like, bringing up her trauma like that was something that was like, as much as I don't like someone, certain things like that is kind of crossing the line. Um, so he really started coming at her with that stuff, and I personally was not a fan of that. Despite how much I don't like her, that's yeah. Um, and then there's a point where Ali starts tearing up and starts talking about how she looks at him like she doesn't even recognize him anymore. Saying that she's done with him and this, that, and the third. Now, granted, when everything is all said and done and the truth is out there, um, well, I would sit there and say she'll feel pretty stupid, and she probably will be to an extent. But to be fair, well, the guy was the devil. Um, yeah. And there's one point where Gabby goes back to, well, she goes to some nightclub or whatever, calling Jake. Yeah, she said Johnny as in, I was going to sit there and say Johnny Sakara, but calls Jake up and is like, we need to sit there and talk, and brings up Johnny's name, but then Johnny Diablo just walks in there like, my ears are burning. All right, Xander was kind of confusing the hell out of me because he was sitting there drinking and moping and stuff like that, and Brady came in there, and Brady was actually decent to him. Like he was actually nice to him, despite their history, you know. But the reason why Xander was perplexing me because there was one point he was like, "Oh, Sarah dumped me again." And I'm like, bro, first of all, you're with Gwen. How is Sarah dumping you when you're with somebody else? How does that work? And why I use I'm like, and here's the thing, I understand that what fake Sarah said was harsh and it was hurtful. But he's making it seem like, oh, the love of my life. And I'm pretty sure at one point he actually said the love of my life or whatever. And I'm like, bro, you literally sat there for a good few minutes trying to convince Gwen that she has nothing to worry about. After talking to her, after having a couple rounds of mattress tag, sitting there trying to convince this woman. You're sitting there drinking, talking about drowning your sorrows. And I'm like, dude, what the hell is going on with you? What sorrows do you have? You're with somebody like I think that was the part that just like for me fundamentally just didn't work, you know. But it was nice that they're seeing Brady actually be decent and kind to Xander, despite the fact that he hates his guts and they have really bad history. Um, so good on Brady. Now I think the last part is Kristen and Kayla. So Kristen walks in there. Seriously. In reality, I should probably just pause it and go up and get some more water. But I just don't feel like doing it. I probably will, depending on how long this review is gonna go. Anyway, Kristen confronts Kayla, and long story short, she pretty much tells Kayla that I killed Kristen. I mean, I killed Steve. Steve is dead. This is after she monologue. I honestly tell you, I think that she would probably be a perfect DC villain at this point. With her monologue and everything like that. Them going back and forth. But long story short, she does sit there and say that she killed Steve, and that enrages Kayla, and they start fighting and struggling for the gun, and it goes off. So it goes off, and at this point, they both just kind of look, and they look like they're shocked, like who got shot. And I'm like, okay, I got you. Cliffhanger Fridays, respect. In a lot of ways, I kind of looked at him like, See, that's how you do that right. That's how you do Cliffhanger Fridays right. And I can't sit there and mock GH too much for that because, there's been a lot of times when there's been days where they had to sit there and have their show interrupted by news or whatever and had to put on the episode the next following day. So stuff that was supposed to be Cliffhanger Fridays weren't always Cliffhanger Fridays. Um, so I can't really knock them for that. But they just did it right. Give them props for that. And that's not the end. So Paulina and Chanel was not there talking. And, Chanel was grateful and she was worried about Paulina and stuff like that, the whole chandelier thing. And, Paulina was not there talking about, well, yeah, Chanel was worried about Paulina. Now Paulina was not there talking about she wanted to sue Johnny. Just take him to the cleaners, just take all his money. But, Chanel was too proud for that. She was like, yo, listen, I'm independent, whatever, and, I'm above all that. I mean, she said something else as far as, being like her mother, whatever, but the point is she didn't want to go with that route. She didn't want to plan that. I mean, she didn't want to go with that plan. But then Paulina was not to ask her about Allie, and Chanel lied and lied and lied and lied. I'm like, sweetheart, she already knows. She's just testing you to sit there and see if you're going to be honest. And you failed. So Paulina's like, listen, I know exactly what you did. I know what you did with Allie. And at first, Chanel, being the immature little girl that she is, brings up the whole Abe thing and everything like that. And I'm like, sweetheart, this isn't about her. This is about you. Okay? This is about you. You and Allie and Trip, who you are both screwing over. So stop deflecting, woman up a little bit, and own it. At first she was like, oh, it's just a kiss, and, we're just friends, even though I'm attracted to her, and this, that, and third, and, Allie's in love with with Trip, and blah, 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 and I'm just like, uh, famous words from a person who is, being with somebody while they're involved with someone else. You could just hear all the pathetic excuses and the justifications and the downplaying it, and that's pretty much what she wound up doing. So halfway through, I'm just sitting there just looking at this like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, screw it. I think I could just remember the rest. Um, but anyway, Paulina leaves to go get her ankle checked out, and at some point, Allie comes over there, and Allie's like, we gotta sit there and talk. Now I'm sitting there thinking, is to talk about Johnny. I'm pretty sure that's about it, more or less. Now, before I go, I did see the previews. I think towards for next week. I gotta sit there and say, I'm really excited. Um, because here's the thing with Paulina and that really terrible man that she was with. She never once said that he was dead. So I always kept sitting there thinking, at some point, like, is he ever gonna sit there and come to Salem? I wondered that I wanted that about Charlie's father. Was he ever going to come to Salem to get revenge? Um, but since they don't really bring Charlie up that much, I mean, granted they did when he rose him from the dead and then put him back in the grave or whatever. Um, but here's the thing about that storyline. I feel like whenever you do a storyline that's involving the R word, it's very sensitive and it's very controversial. And it's one of those things where it's like if it's not handled right and with care, it can go sideways real fast. So, though I feel like they did that storyline and they told the story, and it's one of those things like what, let's not kind of linger on with that. It's like that's not saying that they got away with a crime, but it's like all right, we got away with relatively little backlash. I was sitting saying. It's not temp fate. Let's just kind of leave that alone. So I always felt like for the most part like they just didn't want to sit there and revisit that storyline as far as bringing in, Charlie's father. Now, Lonnie's bio dad, on the other hand, she never said that he was dead. So I was always wondering, is he ever going to come to Salem? And when you watch the previews, yeah, he's coming to Salem. And the way he looks at Paulina for a good minute like hmm, that real bastard look, in his eyes, it was like, ugh, this is going to be bad. And you see Lonnie Smith there talking to Abe about not being interested in meeting him. But you see in the clip that he comes across her with the twins. So now I'm like, oof, this is gonna be crazy. This is gonna be crazy. I wonder if this dude is connected. This could be something. I always wondered, was Kristen actually modeled off of Sharon Stone? I feel like that. Like I feel like she has a lot of. I mean, and granted, this is watching her after a while. This is something that I just, even though I was at work, I was meant to think. I was like, man, she just has those Sharon Stone vibes. Like even the way she was doing the whole little leg crossing thing, like you couldn't see it from that angle, but it was just like you really got that whole Sharon Stone vibe. Like and I mean like '90s Sharon Stone. Before she started doing some I don't even know how to sit there and put it, but it's a lot of the stuff she started doing lately in life was left. I'll just sit there and say, like, a lot of her moves, she just went left, and a lot of her choices. But 90 Sharon Stone, 90 Sharon Stone, and that's the vibe I get from Kristen. Anyway, with that being said, I think that's about it. I want to thank everyone for watching. Hope everyone has a great, safe, amazing weekend, and I can't wait to see everyone Monday. Have a good weekend.